Hello, it is the morning of June the 9th, and I'm here in front of this blue building, which is now currently vacant. But back in about February of this year, Mark Whitley, the Economic Development Director of Roane County, reported to the County Commission that the building had been rented. That's been vacant for about 10 years. It was an abortive attempt to get a big company to stay, which didn't work. But anyway, it's been vacant. And that's part of the controversy. Since the last recording that I did, I've been fired by the board of directors because I called out the vice president of the board, who happens to be the city attorney and who has been on the board for a lot of years, and in my opinion, just in a direct conflict. And I've talked to him about it several times, but it did no good. Anyway, if in fact, as I have been told, the tenant of this building who had used it for storage, Nichols Graphics, has actually been given notice to move their stuff out. That was about May the 21st or so. They had 2 weeks to move out to prepare for the new tenant. Now, if that is in fact the case, that means that Tom Whittier, the city attorney slash board vice president, was in fact reasonably conclude that he was doing the legal work on the building. At the same time, he was opposing me and calling out the mayor and himself on his gross misconduct back in 1999, when they actually took a valuable piece of property from Family Healthcare on the north end of their parking lot so that they enabled Walmart to come to town. And supposedly they were going to give back equal parking, but in fact they gave back 20 feet of grass, as you'll see here in a minute. This blue building is currently vacant, but the problem with it is that it is, where I am standing, is a federal industrial highway, which means that you cannot park on the right-of-way, and that's the only place that Family Healthcare patients have to park. Now, this building here that you see was part of the old Spencer State Hospital. And as I swing around, then you'll see some parking in rock that actually is owned by the city, and that was allowed to be used by Family Healthcare patients back in 2006, when the mayor and I had a very heated conversation when I called him out on his parking arrangement here. When this building was built in 1948, it was part of the state hospital complex, residential complex. It had no parking. And then Tom Whittier was president of the board back in '96, and they signed off on buying this building, and it had heavy restrictions on it and no parking. This is a three-story building with no parking, literally. I mean, no patient parking in front, so the patients have to actually park on the right-of-way of the federal industrial highway, which is illegal. Now, the mayor at one point in time, a few months ago, when I called him out on it, threatened to send the State Highway Patrol over and ticket all the patients who were parked here and tear up the rock parking lot that he had so graciously allowed Family Healthcare to use. What I had proposed was that he deed 60 feet of this grassy area for patient parking, so that if in fact the patients lost that ability to park on the highway or on the roadway, then they would have a place to park. But he refused, and as I put more pressure on him and the board to do something about it, their idea of fixing it was just to fire me, which they did about May the 5th or 6th. And so anyway, Tom Whittier came to my office and said to me that the mayor had told him to tell me that if I would retire, he would fix the parking. Which I certainly declined. And then when they fired me, suddenly, which I knew they would, the same deal was given to me, that if I would retire, then it would be okay, or if not, they would fire me, and I chose being fired. I do not ever want to play those kind of underhanded games that the mayor and Tom Whittier are so famous for. They've sold out Family Healthcare. Every time this Family Healthcare has gotten involved with the city of Spencer, they've come out second best or third best. Tom Whittier's resolution to the board, even though I had told him he was in direct conflict, because he's the one, and him and the mayor are the one that caused the problem in the first place, and all I did was ask him to fix it. But they, his idea was to take this little piece here and turn it into a parking lot. But the problem with that is, A, it's small, only about 8 cars could fit on it at best. And the other part is that Family Healthcare only owns about the first 20 feet of it, and the rest of it is owned by the West Virginia State Highway Department as right-of-way. So anyway, he just absolutely refused to intervene with the mayor to get them to fix the problem. So their idea of fixing the problem was just to fire me, which is okay. I only had a few months left on my contract anyway. But the problem is that the problem still exists. The patients have no place to park. If this building, in fact, is rented, as we believe it is, then as a result of that, it's very likely that the patients will no longer be able to park in front of the building. And if that happens, then patient visits will decline, revenue will decline, and Family Healthcare will be forced to default on $1 million for the USDA, $222,000 for local bankers, and $100,000 for the Center for Rural Health Development. So that's how badly that Tom Whittier wanted to preserve his relationship with the mayor for city attorney. Billable hours are a rule, and Family Healthcare always comes off second best. So anyway, we'll watch this situation, and my website is larrywdentjd.com, and I will put this on YouTube so that it will join the other 3 that I have done up till now. So you can actually follow what is going to be done. Now, Tom Whittier told me that the mayor said he would fix the parking problem. We'll see if he actually does. And my guess is that he won't, because money is supreme here in Spencer. When Walmart came to town, that you can see, and they took the north end of the parking lot, at the end of the day, Tom Whittier had gone across the table. He was the board president, but then he, at this particular juncture, he reverted back to the attorney for the Spencer Economic Development Authority, and he orchestrated taking of the property and had the board authorize him to do that. And of course, one of the board members, Martha Cooper, was actually the secretary of the Spencer Economic Development Authority at the time. But anyway, at the end of the day, the Spencer Economic Development Authority walked away with $100,000 from Walmart when they sold their 10 acres plus what they got from Family Healthcare, which was probably the most critical part of it, because they needed that to turn their building facing Highway 33. And the city of Spencer, of course, collected all the taxes and have collected taxes for, the city of Spencer has collected all the taxes since Walmart has been open, and it's reasonably assured that city people and the mayor and everybody else involved in it actually knew Walmart was coming to town before they actually sold this property to Family Healthcare. So what Family Healthcare got out of this whole transition and transaction was just a parking problem. They got 20 feet of grass off of the front of their lawn, which had actually been omitted from the original deed. So one might conclude that the 20 feet off of the original deed was actually withheld, knowing in advance that they needed trading property for Walmart. Anyway, it's a sorry situation. It's one of the most egregious acts of selling out your own neighbors, selling out your own community, and certainly selling out Family Healthcare just to put a few dollars in the city coffers to enable Mayor Williams, who's a long-term mayor, very well paid, full-time mayor of one of the smallest municipalities in West Virginia. So this is the kind of thing that goes on here, and it needs to be stopped. Family Healthcare, unless it is stopped, unless this hand-picked board, and unless this cancerous relationship is ended with the city, where the board of Family Healthcare can actually be independent and have an arm's length relationship with the city, there is no hope. I'm Larry Dent. I was CEO. I came here when it couldn't make the next payroll. It was dead broke, cleaning up their mess. I did that for 6 years. And when I called the mayor and Tom Whittier out on their gross misconduct, the way they have treated Family Healthcare and treated this community, their idea was just to fire me, which is fine. I wear it as a badge of honor being fired by these people. So hopefully the future will look a little brighter for Family Healthcare than it does now. So thank you. We'll follow it as it develops.